You're listening to WPRS
on the Z Talk Radio Network.
The next stop is the Warren Exchange Paranormal Radio Show on the Z Talk Radio Network.
The views expressed and opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Z Talk Radio, its affiliates, or sponsors.
Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Thanks for stopping at the Warren Exchange. I'm your host, Al Warren. Tonight, we have Charles Banks. Now, he's the author of a series of books called Death, The Final Frontier, and he's just finished book 2 of that. And he's also the host of Paranormal 101 Radio, and we're going to talk to him about his adventures right after these words.
I'm really psyched Subway's bringing the flavor with this new guacamole for a couple of reasons. First, people really love our guacamole. Rich and creamy, made from Hass avocados and just a hint of jalapeno to keep it interesting. The other reason is, it's just really fun to say. Guacamole.
Guacamole.
Guacamole. Guacamole. Guacamole. Guacamole. See?
Come in and try our new guacamole on sandwiches like the Chipotle Chicken Melt and discover how it turns up the flavor on all your favorite sandwiches.
Subway. Eat fresh.
You can listen to us anytime, anywhere now. Download our free app now for the iPhone and iPad. Look for the Warren Exchange or House of Mystery app at the Apple App Store today.
Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Oakley. I know y'all got crazy busy days. Honestly, the only way I can ever get through a crazy day is with some coffee. Thankfully, Starbucks has these brand new mini frappuccinos. Can we talk about how cute these are? That are the perfect size. Whether you are just starting your crazy day or you're halfway through and you need that pick-me-up, they are ideal. Actually, adorable. I know, we have all been there where you're trying to decide between 2 flavors, and honestly, how can you pick between perfection and perfection? Well, now you can get 2 without feeling guilty. I know, you're welcome in advance.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
Okay, we're back. And joining us, Charles Anthony. I want to welcome you to the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. Longtime fan, and Facebook buddy for quite a while. I really appreciate you taking the time and having me on.
Oh, it's important. It's important to talk to everybody in the field. Well, let's start out with what got you into the paranormal, or has it been something that's been with you all your life?
Well, I contemplated that over and over, with both books, but really, there were two definitive times, that I had an interest in the paranormal. The first being when I was in high school. After you watch those scary movies like Witchboard and those sorts of things, and a couple of friends and I, we went to a couple of sites and got the bejesus scared out of us, and we left, and we have some of those memories. And then, really, truthfully, what even got me involved in wanting to write the book, over the paranormal, was the passing of my father. And he was near and dear to me, and when he passed, Alan, I had that longing, to find what's beyond, and hopefully to eventually be able to communicate with him, and those sorts of things. And I've had different, like one might call sensitive abilities, throughout my life. My mom, when I was a kid, a younger kid, she said I had premonitions, of certain things, and I would see things in a different light, and that really was blocked out, and until I started writing my first book, Paranormal Experiences: That's the Final Frontier, which by the way is free on Google Books.
Okay.
But so it's kind of a tale of two lives.
Yeah. And now, did you grow up in an area that was kind of open to that? So if you're having premonitions as a child, and were your parents kind of okay with this, your family or friends, or was it kind of something you kept secret?
Well, it was really something that I kind of kept secret. I did discuss those things, with my mother. We weren't super religious, one might call. I was baptized in the Episcopalian faith. After that, I kind of went on a whirlwind or religion tour. The Catholic, the Presbyterian, the Evangelical, the Baptist, and those sorts of things. But as far as my church groups and whatnot, in my second book, I have a story about a time after me and a bunch of friends played Dungeons and Dragons, and I went through a period of time of 6 weeks. I can remember the morning still pretty vividly. I woke up and I could see a ram skull with yellow eyes, which happens to be the artwork on the second book, and I kept that a secret. I never told my mother, and actually she didn't find out until she read the second book. And I broke down one night. I had a teacher, whom I was fairly close to, my course teacher, and I shared the story with her, and she introduced me to Pastor Terry Liddy, who was a Baptist minister, and he worked me through that, and then I was saved in the Christian faith, per se, in that aspect at that point. So the answer would probably be no. My dad was pretty stern. He was the sheriff of Appalachia County for over 20 years, in law enforcement for 40 plus years. I could discuss it with my mom, but I really couldn't discuss it with my dad, to say that.
So how was it with you? Like, so that would have been kind of the 70s and maybe 80s, right? So,
yes.
So how did you feel? Like, what influenced you, I guess, is where I'm going to go. So were you watching horror movies a lot then? Was it kind of something you were fascinated with, paranormal, UFO, all that sort of thing, or maybe not? Like,
well, I was fascinated by anything that was spiritual. I would read at a relatively young age, on pretty much anything that was spiritual. Now, when the movie Witchboard came out, we ran out and got a Ouija board and used it, and And there was one evening at my parents' house that I really thought my buddy was playing tricks, and he thought I was playing tricks. But the Ouija board spelled out. We asked, well, who's here? And it was after a weekend of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's it spelled out Asmodeus, which was kind of scared the pants off of us, and then we stopped. There were other times, that we would just use the Ouija board, for fun. We went to an abandoned house in Dean Bottoms, which is in southern Iowa, and I can remember going back to my girlfriend at the time's house, and she touched my hand, and she knew right away that we had been to a bad place, and we used the Ouija board, and she said that she demanded that I burn it right away, which we did, which I found out later in my research that's probably not a good idea. But I would say that just that sparking curiosity kind of got me involved and hooked within it.
And how do you feel about the Ouija board now? Like, do you think that they're really more than a communication device? Do they actually hold spirit, or do you think that they're just a communication device?
Personally, I wouldn't necessarily, and this is my personal belief, of course, I wouldn't necessarily believe that they hold spirits within. I do believe that a spirit, if a spirit wants to interact with you in this realm, they could use any device, and whether that be a spirit box, whether that be an EVP session, whether that be the Ouija board itself. I think it's more of a communication tool with the other side, and again, I think that we have to be careful if we're trying to communicate for the wrong reasons. We don't want to provocate, obviously, and I did that a few times in my past, and in book 2 it kind of discusses some of the portals that could have been opened, to the unknown.
So what's your feeling then on the current shows around now? Like, are you feeling that they're good, that they're something you watch a lot of, or something you can learn from, or do you think that they're more entertainment now?
Well, I'll just say, Zach Bagans and Ghost Adventures, I'm not going to knock them. I watched them, the first couple of years. Now, the shows today, it seems like it's more demon, or it's dark, and I don't think that every investigation or every practice, by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, is like that. So I think we're getting to the point where we're becoming overpopulated, oversaturated, and this power of persuasion out there, it's probably more for entertainment purposes in a lot of realms. Now, that's not to say that there are great paranormal groups out there, Alan, that I've had a chance to talk to, whether it be on my show or otherwise. And I can tell you that there are places that you can learn and learn new techniques and discuss ideas and things such as that. But I would say the shows today are really entertainment. Now, I don't know how you feel about it.
I think they're pure entertainment. Personally, I think the days are long gone of the investigator going in there just with a camera and actually sitting there and trying to capture something on, now they're big projects. They go to a place and really camp out 2 weeks to get an hour of TV, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's just pure entertainment, and which is fine. It brings people to the field, and it makes people aware of what's going on, sort of, But that's about it for me. So let's talk about your book. So when was the first one that you put out? Like what did you write about, in the sense of what are people going to get from getting your first book?
Well, the first book, Paranormal Experiences: Death, the Final Frontier, it started out as 2 different books. I was writing a book kind of discussing the death process, the grieving and the issues and things, and the story, and some of the stories within were some of my contact that I had with my father and those and different things that surrounded that. And then I also had a book where I actually wrote down certain areas that I decided, that I either went to as a child or I went to as an adult, and did a little bit of, I would say novice investigation. And, I had a good friend of mine, Kara Overton, who teaches English at the same school that I teach, and she had said that this stuff's good. You should probably put this together. So I had less than 50 pages written at that point. And within 3 to 4 weeks after that, I had everything put together and all my stories, and had her read it and edit it, and she said it was really good. And I basically, I believe I put that up on Amazon in November of this past year, and it's got a lot of great stories, and there's a lot of local Iowa, hot spots that we went to, like Villisca. The Villisca Axe Murder House. It also talks about, the trip that we went up to the, to see Custer's last stand in that area, and then also the Battle of Wounded Knee Creek and those sorts of things. But it really kind of towards the end, it kind of gets into the personal situation, that our family kind of suffered from, maybe some spiritual attachment. Activity from all 3 locations that we've lived in the last 15 years, and it's basically just a quest to search for answers. It's a very good book if you've lost a loved one. I've been told that there's several reviews out there that says it's very good, and many people say that, and I'll just say it, the way I write is as you're reading it, it's almost like you're sitting across the table from me. And we're discussing it. So I'm kind of a storyteller, in that regard.
That's great. And now, these places, have you been doing actual investigations for a while?
Well, novice-wise, if you look at actual investigations, I've definitely been doing investigations, on our residences that we lived in, and most notably, a place called Birthday Bridge, or Giblin Bridge, which is in southern Iowa, and there was we had read something on I believe on Google that supposedly this place was haunted, and a good friend of mine and I actually went to the Mason Inn in Bentonsport, Iowa, and then we decided to check out that, and we took a bunch of pictures, and there was this huge white powerful light that came down on one of those photos, and then I actually went back with my mother-in-law on October 31st to this Birthday Bridge, and we got a really good EVP that says basically deaths all around, and that just I would say that I am planning on doing a joint investigation with a good friend of mine, Jenny Priblisky, Shane Stone from Southern Missouri, and taking my oldest daughter to the Villisca Axe Murder House itself and actually spend the night. So that's going to be really my first true investigation with all the technology and all the gadgets and whatnot.
Do you think that's going to make a difference, or?
I don't know. I personally believe that we are, as humans, that we are our best gauge, as far as activity that's around us, and I do write about that in depth towards the end of my first book, and then throughout my second book. A lot of the feelings, a lot of the what you would you could visualize in actual contact.
Yeah. Well, you think we all have the ability then to kind of communicate?
I would say that that the spirit world has the ability to communicate with everyone. I don't know whether we're all as in tune per se as each other. I mean, every one person might be a little bit differently attuned, or they've totally blocked out those abilities.
Yeah, whether or not they're paying attention or focusing. Life's easy to get caught up in, right? So. Yes.
So
now you've been doing a radio show for a while, the Paranormal 101 Radio, right?
Yes, I actually started out doing my own little podcast that I would put up on YouTube, and then West Forsyth at IslandGhost.com used to put those up. And then I worked with the Incubate Incarnate for a little while, and then I branched out with three great friends, Jenny Verblisky, Kenny Addison, and myself. We actually put together Paranormal 101, and I do E30 Presents Depth of Show, and that's every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Central, and then we also do a Paranormal Roundtable on Sunday evenings.
Okay. So what's in general, what is it about?
I like to have a broad range or a broad spectrum. We talk about we can talk about conspiracies. We can talk about more social sciences or behavioral sciences type things. We also I had some ghost hunters groups on, psychics, mediums, shaman. It's pretty much the whole spectrum.
So you do it all.
I try.
One-stop shop. So anybody that's really kind of stuck out for you that was a guest or, medium or ghost hunter that you really were kind of, I guess, in awe of or impressed by?
Most recently, the last show that I had author Sean Robbins, who's a psychic, out of the New York area, and she is an author of Wikipedia, the White Witch's Guide, and I was pretty in awe because, of her working with, New York Homicide, working with, Project Stargate, she was one of the originals that was within that. Her, Andy Curtis, he wrote 1984 Redo, or Reda, or however you pronounce it. George Turner, and I've had Coyote Chris Sutton on. I've just had several. I've been blessed to get to know some of these folks and get them on to share their stories. And I think that's exciting, especially even with your shows, to be able to share the story that people went through. It's an amazing sense of accomplishment. Yeah,
it's good. It's fulfilling to share and get knowledge, right? So where do you see yourself going with this in the future here?
Well, I got into podcasting or blog talk radio for the facet to sell a few books, and then I got to know some of these folks, and really the sky's the limit. I've been told that I have abilities. I don't know what kind of abilities I have. I'm kind of a novice on all these things, but my ultimate goal is just to share my story, and if it helps, one or two people out there in the world, I think I've done my job.
So what kind of abilities have you been told you have? Like, what is it that you're sort of unsure about?
Well, I know that spirits, come visit me, whether it's through astral projection or whether it's when I'm meditating and doing those sorts of things. I would say that my biggest ability is probably be that of an empath. Feeling what people feel either in this realm or the next, and I'm starting to develop those things. I've been told that I'm a healer. I don't know whether I'm a healer or not. I think that if we all get in the same wavelengths and whatnot, that the power of prayer or the power of sending light and those sorts of things are all very useful. But I would say, as far as psychic abilities, I don't know what I have.
Okay. Well, confidence is a tough thing to overcome. I mean, it seems surreal when you have events happen. Have you had any that have still stayed with you, like talk to spirit or something in a way that, or a ghost that still leaves you kind of, I don't want to say scared, but maybe unsure?
Yeah, over the writing of the book Strange from Beyond, over the last 4 or 5 months, we've had some activity. I call it Live from the Haunted Basement for a reason on my show, but in reality, I've had people say that I'm scared of the unknown, and that's the reason why, I can't develop my gifts. I don't know what to think. And I've had other people say that there is something, dark that's attracted or spiritually attached, to my being and whatnot. And again, every day, I learn something new. I learn to cope. I've blessed the house in many different religious facets, and again, it seems like more and more, I get into contact. I think one of the most amazing things that happened, Alan, was there was an overwhelming feeling one night, and it was lighter, and I actually smelled cigarette smoke, Camel non-filters, which, by the way, that's what my dad smoked. So that was a pretty nice feeling. But there's other times when it's not so nice, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, and so none of the blessings really sort of change things. How do you sit on religion now?
I would say that I'm a spiritualist. My grasp and my upbringing was more through traditional Christianity and more of a traditionalist point of view. As I let that traditionalist point of view go, and I get rid of the human aspect of religion, I've become more spiritual and I've become a better person, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I think so. I think that it's just sort of the way it is. I think it's the best way you can be. I think personally, God, it's a relationship you have that's personal between you and God, and your road there is your own journey. I don't think there's really much else to it. But, because I find that personally, a lot of the things I've gone into, certain religious frames don't always work, so I don't know that there is one that is really the answer.
You bet. And I live in an area. It's pretty much the most south and eastern portion of Iowa, and it's if you look at the historical patterns of this area, you have a highly Native American concentration. And as well as the Mormons came through, and they were chastised, and within the area. So it is a pretty active area itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity there, and it's tough to read. Very dark sometimes.
Yes.
No?
And it's interesting because my friend Kenny Addison, who's an empath, Jenny, who's got she's a developing empath, and they all kind of see the same things. They see that there's an area in the basement that and it's my storage room, by the way, that it seems that it's almost like a portal or a doorway for some of these spirits to come and sometimes say hi and sometimes to torment.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Do you see yourself trying to get further into, I guess, how do you say, mediums, or being a medium or psychic?
I've been asked that question several times, and the answer, I really don't have the answer yet, and I'm guessing it's because I'm a little apprehensive or a little nervous, of what it could reveal, and those sorts of things.
Well, what is it that you're nervous about? Like, what do you think would happen?
Well, I guess I definitely want to have the ability to to talk and help spirits in need, but I want to get rid of that darker rationality, or the feeling that a darker entity maybe manifesting, or being attached to myself or my family. I get pretty nervous along those lines. Some people say that I need a big swift kick in the pants, to wake up, but I don't know.
Well, the way it works for me is I get real nervous myself. But I was just down at the Vancouver thing, and I was one of the people doing an event, readings for a whole audience. And, the thing is, I used to be real terrified of or had all sorts of thoughts, but I'll tell you what, you just go out and pass on the information you get, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. I really, as I've gotten older, I really try not to explain it, because I really don't have the answers. So you just do the best you can with what you've got, and try not to let it affect you.
Yeah, because it's as far as the paranormal, sometimes especially when you first get involved with it, it seems that it's almost like your dark obsession or addiction. Did you ever go through anything like that?
Oh, I guess no, a little, but not really. No. No, for me it was very different, because it's something I grew up with since I was 5, 6, and it's sort of I had a different experience. So I'm not really one to say that. I'll leave it at that. When I go, because like I said, I'll go and do readings and do things, and it's the only thing that bothers me is if there's cameras and stuff like that around.
Yeah.
Because it'll affect me. Only because it takes my attention away. But
there was a couple of times that I've talked to some of my friends, where I've done I've done like readings kind of out of the blue, and they've been right on. But even that kind of that type of interaction sometimes even. I'm like, well, what in the heck am I doing? And then there was the idea that there was one afternoon that I was sitting in my classroom, and I was working with some students, and I knew that my boss was going to call, and I knew what it was going to be about, and I knew it wasn't good. And you know what? He called 3 minutes later.
I think intuition's very big for all of us, really. It's tough to separate. I mean, how many times have you walked into a room and there's been a fight, or there's been something that goes on, and you feel what's happened, right?
Yes, and sometimes it's so intense that it definitely throws me for a loop. And sometimes I have a hard time, like when someone's angry, I tend to get angrier. When someone's sad, I go through those range of emotions as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so you're picking them up and you really react to them. I think that that's quite common. Yeah, you should pursue it further. Have you decided to go further with that? Meet up with someone in your area and try to see where it goes?
I do have a few contacts that I'm working with. I have a really good friend and confidant, Patty Fowler, and then also Sean Robbins said, don't hesitate to talk to her. And then also, just learning with, Kenny Anderson and some of the other individuals.
And how do you think it's going?
I think some days is really good, and other days I feel like I've been kicked in the pants, and I have a hard time moving forward. But things are getting lighter. Kind of like we discussed, previous to the show. I am in the process of writing my third aspect to the Death of Final Frontier series, which is going to be out of the light, out of the darkness and into the light, experiences from beyond 3, and things are getting better, but still, I have a long road ahead of me and a lot to learn.
Well, I think that you always do. Like, don't you shouldn't go into it looking that you're going to resolve this, because you're probably not.
Yeah.
Because the more I tried to grasp what was going on, and the more I learned, it's the old saying, the less I really understood, because it's true. There's it's endless. It just keeps on going. So I've tried to take the pressure off myself and just kind of go with it.
That undying and what got us all involved, possibly, in this realm is that to discover, what is beyond, this plane. The idea that the next dimension is thinning. There are nights that it gets hazy, and for no particular reason.
Yeah. Well, how do you sleep at night? Do you have dreams? Do you have experience with remote viewing?
Yes. What I've noticed over the last 3 months or so is every time that I go to sleep, I can feel other beings coming around the bed, which it's not necessarily a bad feeling most of the time, but it's definitely odd. I tried, and I actually have the ability to astral project, not trying to, and I've had some pretty eye-opening experiences within that. One time I can remember floating out of the body and into the next realm, and lo and behold, there's my dad with me, and we go visit my mother who's in distress as she's sleeping in a hospital bed, and then all of a sudden I was back up, gasping for air and doing those things, and I do have that ability to interact, especially in dreamland, a lot more so, than being awake.
And so, are you more comfortable with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like I take on a different personality, maybe. I don't know, but I feel more at ease at times. Now I have had instances where I struggled to find it home. I can remember one night it started out really good, and then I get in front of my house and there's so many spirits in front of me trying to get in the front door. I had to run to the back in order to get back to my body. That was odd. Now, as a person that teaches kids, activities director, it's sometimes hard to take those sorts of facets within the paranormal itself.
Yeah. Well, so you think that there's something wrong with you then, or?
No, absolutely. And being introduced to several individuals in the paranormal, I've become a lot more comfortable with who I am and those sorts of things. No, I absolutely. I've had a clean bill of health. I'm a great educator and all that good stuff. I'm just opening up.
Well, do you think that does it make you feel like you're that you do something wrong when you deal with the paranormal? Is that sort of a feeling that you get? That do you tell the other people around you that you work with and maybe students anything about it, or do you ever talk about it?
Not unless they ask. I did have a few students ask to purchase the book, and I sold it to them. I live in what you would call the Bible Belt.
That's sort of why I ask, because I think that so a lot of people in a lot of the mainstream religions don't really like paranormal activity so much still, Yeah, there's a lot of judgers. It's almost a written taboo, what I mean, in our society, and sometimes it's hard to interact with those individuals, or like many things, it appears that some people in the mainstream are a lot more biased and one-sided. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I understand that totally. I couldn't be any more of a minority. And 10 years, and I've got 10 years on you, and I'll say that because in my day it was totally considered you've got a devil problem. You're definitely that's totally evil. Like in the 60s, Dark Shadows was kind of like the best it got, as in a positive experience, but it was considered very evil to be talking to the dead or anything on that side. It was all to do with the devil, demons. There was no good mediums or psychics. They were all considered the dark side. So a lot of hardcore religious people in mainstream still believe that. So I was just wondering, being down in that area, it's got to be hard because they're not exactly open to interpretation on that.
No. I mean, it's still taboo. I mean, I basically keep my education and my professional life separated. You know what I mean, with my paranormal.
Oh yeah, when you're out stripping at night at the club, you don't want it to be caught on Facebook, right? You can't be a teacher.
No.
Oh God, yeah, and I sort of, we laugh, but I wouldn't see it being that far. That some people could get upset that their kid's teacher deals with paranormal.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it just wouldn't surprise me to see an issue arise from that.
And personally, I've taught for many years. I was runner-up Teacher of the Year in the state of Iowa once. I have a long track record of helping kids, succeed and get the best education possible. And I have a remarkable track record with kids coming back saying, "Hey, Banks," or whatever. And I can't go out even in Lee County, today, and I've only been at this job for 3 years without someone saying, "Hey, Mr. Banks," and Centerville, it was even much more. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting to say the least.
Yeah. It's too bad that it has to be that way, but it's the way it is. So let's talk about what's next for you.
Well, I'm going to be doing some book signings in Iowa on Experiences from Beyond. I'm going to continue the radio show. I am in the process of writing book 3 in the series, but there will be a book that'll come out before that entitled Around the Dinner Table, Religion and Politics, which kind of pokes fun at a lot of the politicians and religion in general. I'm sure I'll get some flack over it, but it's kind of a fun, more laid back style than I promoted in my first 2 books.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Where do you feel about the world right now? Do you feel like there's a real negative energy going on, or is it just sort of, are we scared just because of all the bad media news sort of thing, or do you think there's some real negativity going on?
Well, in my book I kind of discuss this, and I've had deep conversations with Andy Curtis, about beware of false flags. And you look at the media, all the way around. I mean, everybody's addicted to drama and negativity and anything that's he versus she or he versus he or whatever. And I think that until Americans, or world people rise up against this constituency, we're going to continue to have a problem. Now, I see us, going through a pretty negative time, in the next 10 to 15 years, whether it be a natural destruction or another terrorist attack. And it's scary. It's scary that, you have groups like ISIS. And ISIS is really Al-Qaeda, incarnate. I look back at that, as, in my political science aspect. And, they hate us. If you look around the world at how many people actually like Americans, it's dwindling, as far as the numbers. And I think that's a lot, that's pretty much self-imposed. I can see us losing more and more, maybe of our, our inalienable rights, as far as speech and, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And you know, I can see us losing some of those rights, and people are going to rise up and get pretty upset. The thing that scares me the most, Alan, is the American dollar. If it were to be replaced, you know, in like the global currency, America may not be, you know, it may be as bad as Germany was after World War I. I'm not for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. It's it's hard to say. For some reason, I'm not as scared as I used to be.
Yeah.
So
I think I think a lot of different groups, and it doesn't just hit with you know, gays, bisexuals, and lesbians, and Christians, and Jews, and you know, and Muslims. There's just a lot of distress in the world. You know, the melting pot that was America seems to be unraveling.
Yeah. I just wonder if it's really more about the image or finding out what it really is. Do you think it really ever was a melting pot?
Well, you know, it was a melting pot probably of differing, you know, Christian points of view. You know what I'm saying, especially in its founding. And you know, eventually as you get different, you know, Eastern European countries and the Middle East, you know, that start to immigrate to the United States, you know, that the tide kind of changes. I don't know. We're definitely a melting pot of different ethnicities. But I'm unsure that we're real capable of being a melting pot of different perspectives, which is sad.
Yeah, I just looking back now, I see that there's so many. You know, the cities have so many communities. Like, you know, you have to have a black community, a Mexican community, a gay community. Like, they all have segregation is still there, and it always was. So I don't know if I feel as melted.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because it does. It's because you look at a lot of other countries, like, you know, I'm picking up on the northern country there, but where there's not really any communities, but yet they just have the races and everybody's sort of mixed, and you don't really think of it the same, you know.
Absolutely.
So that's all. But it's not a huge deal. Just me rambling. So there we have it. I think you said it all.
All right. Hey, I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope to have you on my show soon.
Yeah. Well, you know, anytime. Anytime. As long as I know, I'm there.
That's fantastic. I appreciate it, sir.
Don't miss our next episode, Fuels Rush In, or the Star Spangled Boner.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of the Z-Talk Radio Network.
I'll be back.